I'll be talking about the accommodations that a student will receive in the public schools, just because students that go to residential schools will use American Sign Language as their primary language, and teachers in residential schools are going to be teachers that have been educated to be teachers of the deaf, so those students aren't going to need the accommodations that they will need in just a normal public or private school. So depending on whether the child uses American Sign Language or has an amplification device such as a hearing aid or cochlear implant, depends on the accommodations that they'll receive in the public school, and so it's very important for the teacher to meet with the family to determine the method of teaching that they want their child to receive. So students using American Sign Language will be given an interpreter that will do their best to relay all the information from the class lecture to the student, but sometimes information is lost, and so it's still difficult for the child to keep up in a hearing classroom. Also, teachers tend to rely pretty heavily on interpreters to explain, and that can be a burden on interpreters and the student if they're not understanding what's going on. Another option is for the student to have hearing aids or cochlear implant, and in this situation, assisted listening device is recommended. And what that is either an FM system or a sound-filled system. And both of these, the teacher talks into a microphone, and the sound is transmitted either with the FM system through the student's hearing aids, or either the student wears a headset and the teacher's voice is put directly into the student's ears. The only problem with the FM system is that if you're having a class conversation and the student can only hear what the teacher's saying, then the student's going to be lost because he's not going to know what his classmates are talking about. So it's really important to educate the teacher on what the child is going to be able to hear, and explain that she might have to repeat comments made by the students. A sound-filled system is probably better for a child with cochlear implants or an implant. And that's just when the teacher talks into a microphone, and instead of having earplugs or hearing aids or a headset, there will just be a speaker. And so you really have to watch for background noise with the sound-filled system because they're not going to be receiving the signal directly. But assisted listening devices are great. The FM system really reduces background noise. They both enhance signal to noise ratio, and they're really great for large classrooms for students that is deaf or has hearing loss. Other accommodations to ensure that the student receives proper information is just to make sure that the classroom is well lit. You never know if the student that has hearing aids is watching your face and maybe is speech reading, or the student that signs is also speech reading, and the student who has hearing aids or cochlear may also sign. So they're really relying on your visual cues as well as their hearing. So make sure your classroom is well lit. If you're in the dark, they can't see your facial expressions, they can't see their interpreter. Don't obscure your face with your hands or a book. If you're reading, don't cover your mouth because they can't see what you're saying, and they're losing half of your facial expression. Repeat your questions. Say important words more than once. Say important sentences more than once. Write on the board. Use any visual cue that you can. Use pictures, charts, large words, large fonts, so that they know what's going on, and it just kind of like gives them some extra time to catch up. And you don't want your pace of your classroom to be too fast. you don't want it to be lagging behind, but you want to give them time to understand what's going on. You should sit students that have a hearing loss or that are deaf in the front, not just because they can hear, but also because you don't want them to have any visual distractions. If they're sitting in the back and they see two girls over here talking and boys kicking each other, they're not going to be watching you, they're not going to be watching their interpreter, they're going to be totally distracted. So if they're sitting in the front, you're just avoiding any type of distractions. Once again, eliminate any unnecessary background noise. Sometimes you can hear the TV in the next classroom, or the air conditioning is too loud, or there's whispering or paper crumbling. So if you can just keep that to a minimum, it really helps with students that have implants or hearing aids. And provide schoolwork ahead of time. You can send home vocabulary words or an outline of a lecture home with their parents the day before, so they can just kind of go over it and understand ahead of time what they're going to be talking about, so they can look out for things that they need to be paying attention to. So once again, those are all accommodations for the public school, and the difference between the public school and residential schools is those teachers are going to be educated to teach deaf students, and everyone signs in our residential schools, so the students are going to feel more accepted, and yeah, so